Hello everyone, I'm Fozzie, or Cam, and I'm here as always with my co-host Will. How are you doing today, Will?
I'm doing great, Cam. How are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic, and we're here again for the final part in our New Year's special, where Mike is back, and we're finishing our MCU tier list. So I think it's going to be a really good finale to this New Year's special. There's we changed the tier list that we were using, and there's some I because there aren't as many tiers in this one as the last one, so I changed things up a little bit, but we can go over that. I don't think you guys will mind. Everything's pretty much the same.
Yeah, great.
Um,
Well, Cam, I just want to say that it's great to be here. I have my Everything Podcast mug with me today, as one of the creatives of the Everything Podcast and one of the hosts for the show. And along with you two, I think it's been three people really working together with synergy and vision and just, a collective effort to bring forth the best podcast we have. So just, shout out to all of us on the Everything Podcast for just, an amazing job that we three have done.
I don't. How did he get that mug?
I want to let our audience behind the curtain here. There's only one Everything Podcast mug here at our house, so Mike saying I have my Everything Podcast mug is implying that me and him both have one, but to let our audience behind the curtain, there's only one Everything Podcast mug at our house that was gifted to me very kindly by your family, Cam, for the Christmas holiday last year. So somehow Mike has stolen my Everything Podcast mug.
Well, we all have our different ways of,
I
remembering things, but I'm here with my Everything Podcast mug. I think Will's is in the dishwasher right now. You know what? But these small details really shouldn't get in the way of the celebration of what a great job the three of us have done, creating and pouring our hearts and soul into the Podcast. I'm just so proud to be part of this trio of hosts.
well, I mean, like you said, there are people remember things in different ways. So yeah, if that's the way you see it, sure, we'll go with that.
Thank you, Cam. It's just meant so much to be part of this partnership and part of this triad. It's an honor. I consider it an honor to work collaboratively with you and Will
All right. I
in
mean,
the Everything Podcast starring Cam and Will and Mike.
it's just incredibly difficult to deal with this. So I think it's time to start our tier list, just so we can move past Mike's ridiculous comments and just focus on what we're here to do. So yeah, if you guys will take a look, I kind of reorganized it. Oh wait, I put I put Falcon and the Winter Soldier instead of Civil War up there. Did not mean to do that. There we go. Um, but yeah, I kind of changed things up because in the old tier list, Age of Ultron and the first Avenger were on the same tier, and I don't know if you guys would want them both on average or both on all right, or are you fine with what it is?
And you're saying for Age of Ultron and the first Avenger?
Yeah, because they were
Yeah,
both on like average, I think, on the last tier list. Because this is a
yeah.
different
I
one.
mean, I think I'm fine with either for each one.
All right, yeah, we'll keep it as this. That's fine. But yeah, right off the bat here, we have the first Iron Man movie, which started it all, 2008.
Yeah.
I think it's obviously a legendary movie in that it kickstarted this whole universe that's taken over Hollywood, taken over the world, pretty much. I mean, the casting is fantastic. I mean, Robert Downey Jr. as Iron Man is probably one of the best superhero castings, if not the best superhero castings of all time. I think he's great in the role and continues to be as the MCU goes on. And I feel like Gwyneth Paltrow plays her role well, and her character gets better and better and better as time goes on in the MCU as Pepper Potts. Um, yeah, I mean, this is a pretty solid MCU movie. It starts it all. It's funny. It has some cool action scenes, and the visual effects have aged incredibly. Some of the visual effects in the first Iron Man movie look better than some of the stuff Marvel's coming out with today. Um, but yeah, I really enjoy this movie. So, and the fact that it started this whole MCU thing, I would probably put it in the masterpiece tier. Will, what are your thoughts on the first Iron Man?
Yeah, so I'm so glad that you touched on, Cam, that this was the movie that kickstarted the MCU. There would be no MCU without this movie, and because Marvel has really gone on to become the most dominant franchise in cinema history, I think it's fair to say that this is one of the most important and biggest movies in Hollywood history. I
Yeah.
feel like you can't tell the story of Hollywood without talking about this movie, because there would be no rest of the MCU if this movie had failed. So I think this is not only an iconic movie by MCU standards, I think this is one of the most important movies in the history of Hollywood, because like, this is the movie that gave birth to the biggest movie franchise that we've ever seen. So I am right there with you, Cam. This is also top tier, masterpiece tier for me. Iron Man is my favorite Marvel superhero. He has been pretty much since the first time that I ever saw him on screen. There's no one that's above him for me. And seeing his journey from across 11 years from 2008 to 2019, Iron Man to Avengers Endgame, going from Mr. Selfish to Mr. Make the Ultimate Sacrifice, and an incredible journey to watch. Robert Downey Jr., I'm just blown away by him. Maybe he'll be winning another Best Supporting Actor
Oh
award for
yeah.
Oppenheimer at the Oscars in a couple months. I know he won. I know he won Best Supporting Actor at the Golden Globes and the Critics' Choice Awards recently. So, masterpiece here for me as well with Iron Man. I think it's one of the most important movies in Hollywood history. I think you can't tell the story of Hollywood cinema without this movie. How about for you, Mike?
Well, according to our friends over at Rotten Tomatoes, the website's critical consensus reads, powered by Robert Downey Jr.'s vibrant charm, Iron Man turbocharges the superhero genre with a depth, intelligence, and an infectious sense of fun. A Variety magazine called the film an expansively entertaining special effects extravaganza with fresh energy and stylistic polish. So much worked right on this film. Great direction by Jon Favreau and vision for what he wanted to do in reigniting kind of the entire superhero genre. But hats off to the performance of Robert Downey Jr. and
Oh yeah.
bringing something new and fresh and layered and compelling to the screen. In many ways, although there's so much praise for his performance in Oppenheimer, and justly deserved, I sometimes think the roles and acting in superhero films can often be overlooked. And Robert Downey Jr. is the heart and soul of the MCU, as far as I'm concerned. This is absolutely masterpiece material.
Yeah. All right. Looks like it's agreed upon that the first Iron Man movie goes into masterpiece tier. And I think I forgot to mention that how much I love Jon Favreau's direction for this movie. He's so talented in everything that he's done. Mandalorian, Elf, Iron Man. I mean, I don't know, does it all. He's an actor too. Really, really impressive. Next up here is the Incredible Hulk, which gets a lot of hate, and I I see a lot of people not even realizing that it's in the MCU, which I get because Edward Norton's not the Hulk anymore. Um, but I enjoy this movie. I don't watch it very often, but when I do watch it, I find myself having a lot of fun with it, and I get that might be a hot take. And no, I don't think it's a perfect movie, but it's definitely not one of the best MCU movies. I think it is above average. I think I would put it into the all right tier. I think Edward Norton's really good as Hulk. or as Bruce Banner. Um, I think the visual effects look great. It's high intensity. I think Edward Norton's a better Bruce Banner than Mark Ruffalo, and I'm not sure if that's a hot take, but I see people, I see people saying both of those things. Some people say Edward Norton, some people say Mark Ruffalo. I say Edward Norton. I mean, I like this movie, and I feel like it doesn't get enough recognition. And maybe if people watched it with the mindset that no, this isn't the best Marvel movie, but if I want to watch a high intensity movie about a monster, an angry monster, then I mean that's the best you're gonna get if you want to see a fun action movie. So you know what? For me, the Incredible Hulk gets all right tier. Will, thoughts on the Incredible Hulk?
Yeah, I would put it in the same tier as you, Cam. The Hulk has never been my favorite character in the MCU. There are other characters I consider more compelling than him. Although I did think Thor Ragnarok. I think that movie did a really excellent job with him, along with the most recent two Avengers movies, Infinity War and Endgame. Um, I've never felt like they've done a great job with Hulk. I feel like they could have made him more compelling. However, I think this movie does a really solid job with the character. The same as you, Cam. Not elite, but I think it's a solid superhero movie, and I think they did a solid job with the Hulk character in this film. Let me not forget that Robert Downey Jr. cameos in this
Oh yeah.
movie too. So shout out to him. So yeah, I'm the same as you. Not elite, but a solid superhero movie. Yeah. So I would go same tier as you, Kim.
Mike?
Yeah, I'm going to cite film reviewer Todd McCarthy, and he kind of summarizes what a lot of you have said. He refers to it as a perfectly solid summer action film. And that's how I view it as well. I'm a fan of Edward Norton. I'm a fan of Mark Ruffalo too, both as actors. I think they approach the role in different ways. I agree that I think there's more that could have been done with this character in the MCU. I actually think the TV series from like the 1970s and 80s is more interesting than what they've done. The Hulk and Ragnarok was probably its biggest big screen manifestation, but this one it hovers between the average and all right category for me. But I harbor no ill will towards Edward Norton's Incredible Hulk.
All right. So yeah, I think we'll put the Incredible Hulk in all right tier. Perfect. All right. Next on our list here, we have the highly controversial and that not a lot of people like it, Iron Man 2. I don't mind it. I don't think it's great. It kind of funny sometimes. It I don't hate it as much as everyone else does. I also don't love it. I don't watch it that much. A lot of these movies I rewatch a lot. This isn't one of them. Has some cool fight scenes. The CGI is still looking good. Don Cheadle is the new Rhodey now, and I think he's a really good character. But I mean, the thing with Rhodey, as we know, as we've watched Secret Invasion, he was a Skrull, but not here. He wasn't. That's just a topic I want to get to when we talk about Secret Invasion, because that makes me mad. Um, because Rhodey could have been a Skrull during Endgame and Infinity War, and that just takes a lot of emotion out of a lot of things that happen in the MCU. Um, but it also could not be the case, and it could have just happened right before the show started, you know. But Marvel hasn't really confirmed that with us yet, so we'll see as time goes on. But this movie, I kind of want to focus on now. I think not Electro, Whiplash is a cool villain. Pepper Potts once again improved. I don't mind it. It's some hate. I feel like not all of it's warranted. It's definitely not the best. It's just an average MCU movie. Kind of the run of the mill MCU movie. I think the Tony Stark disease thing he has is interesting. But, you know, that's kind of about it. For me, Iron Man 2 gets average tier. Will, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, so I'm gonna actually give a controversial take. I feel much more strongly about this movie than other people. I really enjoyed the Tony Stark storyline in this film, and while I would not put it above the original Iron Man, I feel like they did about as good a job as they could for a sequel. So I'm going to give the controversial take. I actually really enjoy this film. It gives me more of the Tony Stark that I loved from the original Iron Man. As I said, I
Yeah.
really enjoyed the Tony Stark storyline in this movie. So I actually feel much more strongly about this film than other people, and I would put it in the second tier. How about for you, Mike?
Yeah, in my MCU journey, this one clocks much higher than it seems like the general fan base gives it. For me, it falls into the amazing category, a step down from the masterpiece. I love the Tony Stark storyline in here and kind of his battle with his demons. I thought Mickey Rourke was fantastic and in his performance. You got Scarlett Johansson making an appearance in this film. I thought it furthered the storyline of Tony Stark, Jon Favreau back in again as a director. And yeah, I was never so sure about what the backlash was or why this film wasn't embraced in a higher way. I have it in the amazing category.
All right. So yeah, I think we could put it in the amazing category. Is that fine? Yeah, we'll do that.
Well, one thing I was thinking, if I mean, if you have it in average cam and we have it in amazing, we
Yeah,
could
but
put it in
yeah.
the all right. We could put it in the all right category and balance it out. That's one thought that I had.
All right, that's fine.
I just want to go on the record as saying is Iron Man 2 is a better movie than Civil War.
Okay, I disagree with
I
that.
disagree as
It's
well.
just my hot take, but I think the narrative is much better. I think
Now,
the whole storyline comes more full of arc. It's more focused on one character. I'm
I
just giving my personal opinion.
I think it's better than
Iron
all of
Man
the
2.
movies on the all right tier so far, but I wouldn't go as far as saying it's better than Civil War. But I respect your opinion. Thor, the first Thor. Um, Thor in the first two movies is kind of boring. I mean, just compare how awesome he is in Ragnarok, Infinity War, Endgame, and I guess Love and Thunder. And compare him to this, he's just kind of the movie's kind of a snooze fest. It's good performances. Tom Hiddleston has been so consistent as Loki throughout the entire run of the MCU. He is so good. That's another perfect superhero casting. He is so good as Loki. If I were to read a comic with Loki in it, I would hear Tom Hiddleston's voice in my head. I mean, he's perfect casting. I think Hannibal Lecter as Odin was cool casting. He's a good actor. I mean, obviously he's a legend. Um, but yeah, I don't particularly enjoy this movie. I think it's gonna end up in the not great tier just because some of the fight scenes aren't that memorable. Uh, Jane Foster in these movies isn't a great character. I actually think she's better. I think that's one of the few bright spots of Thor: Love and Thunder. I think Jane is really good in that movie. Um, but she's in this one. And Darcy, great character in WandaVision. What actually? Yeah. What are we even? Not really even a character in this one. She's not that funny. Nothing. So yeah, this for me this gets not great tier. Just kind of a boring MCU movie and not a movie I care to rewatch ever. Will, thoughts on Thor 1?
yeah. So this is another one that I have a very controversial take on. This is one of the rare times when Mike, I don't want to steal your thunder because I know this is. I think it's fair to say this is actually one of your favorite MCU films, and all of Mike's reasons for loving this film, I share the same. So this is one of the rare times, Mike. I've actually got to hold off saying anything, and I want to give the floor to you because I don't want to steal your thunder. So Mike, please take it away.
For Rotten Tomatoes and the website's consensus, The original Thor is a dazzling blockbuster that tempers its sweeping scope with wit, humor, and human drama. Thor is mighty Marvel entertainment. Will always have loved the fish out of water story. Thor's emergence on Earth and having to learn the customs and the norms of how Earthlings work and what that culture is, the relationship between Chris Helmsworth and Natalie Portman. I found the chemistry fantastic. Loved the story, loved the storylines. The classic director, Kenneth Branagh, I thought did a fantastic job. It might not be what the general MCU fans want, but in terms of a story, and I'm into the narrative and I'm into where it's going, and it gripped me from the beginning and it never let me go. Thor, the first film in the series, masterpiece.
I agree.
Wow. I was not expecting a masterpiece. I was like, all right, maybe they'll go with amazing. I get it. I know they like this one. Masterpiece. Wow, I am stunned right now. So
So I
yeah,
think if we're gonna balance this out, so I think we've got
we
one
can
not great and two masterpieces. So it
amazing.
seems
We can
like
do amazing.
all right. Okay, sure. Yeah, we
Yeah.
can do that. Sure.
Wow, I'm shocked. What a crazy podcast plot twist.
It may be also my favorite Thor movie. I love Ragnarok, love it, and I love the director of Ragnarok. We all know that, Taika Waititi. But I just think as a story, this is the more compelling film.
All right. I mean, I don't see it, but you guys do, and that's fine. Next here is the first Avengers movie titled The Avengers. Um, I like this movie. My opinion has actually kind of gone down on it over the years. If you asked me 1 year ago, I'd probably say masterpiece. As of now, I think they're just better Marvel movies than this. Um, I don't hate it at all, actually. I think it's a great movie. I think, once again, Loki is fantastic. Robert Downey Jr., fantastic. Uh, yeah, I mean, Chris Evans is great in this one. I mean, yeah, it's a good Marvel movie. It has some great fight scenes. The visual effects, once again, continue to look good. Joss Whedon's style as a director is really prominent here. His humor and his action scenes look all really good. It's a funny movie. I'd put this in amazing tier. I don't think it's the best Avengers movie. I also don't think it's the worst. I think Samuel L. Jackson as Nick Fury is great. I mean, he's another character who I think gets better as time goes on. And I'm not sure how he was in Marvels, because still haven't seen that one. Um, but yeah, he's great in this. I mean, yeah, I like this movie. Not a favorite of mine, but I don't not like it either. And just based off how this started the whole Avengers movies and inspired so many other movies with its humor, I have to put it in amazing tier.
Yeah, I'm right there with you, Cam. I like this movie a lot. Nothing will surpass Infinity War and Endgame for me in terms of Avengers movies because they're just so epic, in my opinion. But this one, I definitely um, have as my third favorite Avengers movie behind Infinity War and Endgame. I think it's really hard to put all of these characters into one movie and make it a success. I think we saw Avengers Age of Ultron struggle with that, but this movie, I feel like this movie I thought did an excellent job combining Iron Man, Thor, Captain America, Black Widow, and Hawkeye, and putting them all together into one movie. I thought having Loki as the villain was fantastic. You mentioned Nick Fury, Cam. I totally agree. He's fantastic in this too. So even though I would not put this above Infinity War or Endgame, I think this is an extremely well done Avengers movie. I'm in the amazing tier too. How about for you, Mike?
Yeah, you know, upon its release and in that first year, it became the third highest grossing film of all time. And it was still before what has kind of become this backlash, you know, against the superhero films and the MCU. But if you look at it in its spirit and its time, it was critically embraced by more people of say, you know, the fans have expectations when they come to a superhero movie, and that this film delivered on multiple levels. Great cast, great performances, the action maintained throughout. I have it in the amazing category.
All right, looks like it's settled. Avengers 1 gets the amazing tier. All right, now we have
But
Iron
let's be
Man.
clear, it's not the original Thor.
Oh, all right. I mean, yes, technically it's not the original Thor. You're correct. All right,
Thank you,
now.
thank you, thank you, Cam, for acknowledging my opinion.
All right. Um, next here we have Iron Man 3. I like this movie. I love the Iron Man has nothing at all and he has to start from scratch essentially. Idea around the concept around this movie is fascinating. Uh, I don't mind it at all. I think RDJ is great once more in this movie. I think all of the fight scenes are fantastic and some of the best in the MCU actually, which upon preparing for this podcast, I was thinking about it. I was like, yeah, that final fight scene with all the Iron Man suits is epic. I think the Mandarin twist, a lot of people hate on. I'm all for it. They changed it and it worked out. I thought that was funny, and I thought it serviced the plot really well. I think Gwyneth Paltrow continues to improve as Pepper Potts and can become a better character. I love the Tony Stark anxiety subplot that he has to overcome. Rhodey in this movie is fantastic. Once more, and I love some of the more comedic scenes between Rhodey and Tony Stark. I think those scenes are just show how hilarious both actors are and what good actors they are. I'm a huge fan. I think Aldrich Killian's a cool villain. Not the best, but you know he fits the role and his powers are pretty cool. Yeah, his motivations are interesting. I like the flashback stuff. I am all good with it. This is the first Iron Man movie that Jon Favreau didn't direct. This was the guy who directed the 2018 Predator movie. I don't know why I know that and not his name, but that's just how it is, I guess. Um, yeah, this movie, I
Are
think
you referring to Shane Black, Cam?
I am referring to Shane Black. Yes, this movie, I think will get an amazing tier from me. I could bump it into all right, but I'll go towards the amazing tier. Will, thoughts on Iron Man 3?
Yeah, so I would go the all right tier for this one. And my reasoning for being in the all right tier and not the amazing tier is this. And you touched on it, Cam. You talked about the Iron Man has nothing and he has to start from scratch storyline. I love that storyline. I think it's perfect for an Iron Man movie. I just didn't feel like I got that one definitive kick-ass revenge Tony Stark scene for what happened to him and the movie. I just didn't feel like I got that in this one, and it left me, not feeling great walking out of it. So I think I think I think the Iron Man storyline is as good in Iron Man story as they could have possibly come up with. I just think they didn't capitalize on having that one big epic Tony Stark kick-ass revenge scene for what happened to him in the events of the film. So for that reason, I'm gonna go in the all right category. How about for you, Mike?
Listen, anytime you get Robert Downey Jr. and Gwyneth Paltrow together, you know, in these roles of Tony Stark and Pepper Potts, I'm always interested. I'm always intrigued. Uh, this one did leave less of an impression on me as I felt what it built to didn't kind of pay off with certain scenes. In the end, I kind of agree with what Michael Phillips said in the Chicago Tribune when he wrote, "It's decent superhero blockbustering, but rather remote and vaguely secondhand." I don't want to like diminish it that extensively, but I felt like I've been here before. The newness maybe that they attempted throughout the whole thing just didn't pay off for me. I felt a build in the beginning with exploring some new concepts, but I didn't feel necessarily the payoff. In the end, it would still fall into the all right category. But you know what? Maybe I'm taking Iron Man and Tony Stark and Gwyneth Paltrow and Robert Downey Jr. for granted, right? And so if I revisited the film, it might be higher, but right now it's in the all right category for me.
I'm fine with that. Perfect. That
Definitely
works.
no, it's not the original Thor.
Once again, yes, that's correct. It is not the original Thor.
Thank you for agreeing with me.
Yeah, just reminding everyone that Iron Man 3 is, in fact, not Thor. Alright, next we have the sequel to Thor, which is called Thor: Dark World. It's probably my least favorite Marvel movie of all time. Just not really a point to it existing. I feel like not a whole lot happens. Although, when Chris Evans appears on the screen for like 5 seconds, that was interesting. I thought that was a little fun little joke there. Once again, Tom Hiddleston continues to be fantastic as Loki. That's about it. I mean, Malachi is probably the worst MCU villain. Odin's fine. I mean, Thor's fine. It's all just meh. I mean, there's really nothing that appeals to me here. The final fight is pretty cool. Thor is always cool when he's fighting, so props there, I guess. But that's really about it. I mean, Thor's mother dying was a cool scene, I guess. It brought some emotion to the film. Loki's death was emotional, and then he find out he's not dead, which it kind of stinks. But it's fine. Not a favorite of mine, but yeah, it's probably my least favorite MCU movie. So for me, this is either going into the not great or horrible tier. Since I'll put it in the horrible tier. I don't love this. I don't like this movie really.
Yeah, so for me, how I'm gonna address my feelings toward this film are exactly how I talked about Avengers: Age of Ultron and Captain America: The First Avenger. And what I talked about with those two films is I don't dislike them. I just don't have them on the level of other movies in their respective franchises, and that's exactly how I feel about Thor: The Dark World, along with Thor: Love and Thunder. I don't dislike either film, but I just don't think either film is on the level of the original Thor and Thor Ragnarok. So for that reason, I'd go either all right or average. How about for you, Mike?
Well, it's hard when you're comparing any movie towards one of the greatest superhero films of all time, the original Thor. So how do you live up to that time and time again? And it's a dark world. There is a dark world in this Thor. That being said, I don't remember a lot about what that dark world is. I think the glowing sheen from the first two Thor films casts a long shadow, and I think this was a time where Thor was still kind of finding itself. I'm still intrigued by some of the performances, but it wasn't the one that stands out for me. I'm going to put the Dark World in the all right category.
All right. I mean, Will, where did you put it again? Did you put it in all right as well?
I said either all right or average, so maybe like average or not great
Yeah,
will
we
round
can.
this
We'll
out.
throw in an average.
Yeah, sounds great.
All right, and we'll go through this. Actually, we'll do this because I want to go in depth on Guardians. So we'll talk about Falcon and the Winter Soldier right now. Because we only have 2 minutes left before we have to take our break here. So Falcon and Winter Soldier, pretty good show. Upon rethinking it and comparing it to other MCU shows, my opinion's actually gone up on this. I think there were a lot of cool fight scenes. I think the dynamic between the Falcon and the Winter Soldier is fantastic. I think Anthony Mackie and Sebastian Stan are both fantastic actors, and they're both great at their characters. Fight scenes are great. Some really funny scenes. And U.S. Agent being introduced to the MCU is fantastic. I think that's a really interesting character, and I can't wait for the MCU to continue exploring him. So for me, this goes into all right tier. Will, thoughts?
Yeah, I'm right there with you, Cam. I like this show. I mean, I obviously don't like it as much as shows like WandaVision and Hawkeye, but I think it's so much better than the content that Marvel came out with in the year 2022 when they had Moon Knight, Miss Marvel, and She-Hulk. I think it's much better than that. So would I put it over some other MCU shows? No, but do I think it's a, good, solid, watchable MCU show for sure. So I would go same tier as you, Kim. I would go the all right tier. And Mike, you did not finish this show, so take it away.
Oh boy.
Hugely disappointing,
Yeah.
this series for me, because I love the Winter Soldier, and I was already, I love Falcon, and I liked him emerging, or the idea of him emerging into that role as Captain Marvel. I mean, Captain America. But I found the plot muddled, uninteresting, overly complicated, and uninspired. Horrible. This falls into the horrible category.
Oh,
Wow.
I didn't.
Oh
I
my
didn't.
goodness.
I didn't finish watching it.
Okay.
so it seems like maybe average will round this out.
That works. I could put it in there as well. All right. Alrighty, so now let's continue on with our tier list. Now we have the first Guardians of the Galaxy movie. And I feel like this is the point where the MCU really became this big thing, It started getting even more wacky. Before this, the only space movies we really had were Thor. Yeah, that was it. But now we have Guardians of the Galaxy going to different planets, and it's like Star Wars. I mean, James Gunn is a phenomenal director. His song choice obviously is fantastic, and it's become legendary at this point. The cast is awesome. It's a funny movie. James's writing is fantastic, and all of the things he produces, both for DC and Marvel, it's a legendary movie. It kind of started this new wave of MCU products, the more comedic movies and the more wacky space movies like Doctor Strange, Thor Ragnarok, Captain Marvel, movies like that. And those probably wouldn't have existed if we didn't get Guardians 1, or if it didn't do well at the box office. So for me, this gets a masterpiece tier because I rewatch it all the time. It's funny every time. The action scenes are phenomenal. James Gunn's a really good action director. It makes every scene look good. The characters he creates here are fantastic, and he takes this band of nobodies from the comics that no one really even heard of into a group of characters that my grandmother knows. So yeah, I think this is a huge achievement for the MCU and for James Gunn. So yeah, this gets a masterpiece tier from me. Will, what are your thoughts on Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 1?
I love how you brought up Star Wars, Cam, because I definitely think if there are Marvel movies that kind of embody Star Wars or have a Star Wars feel to them, I think Guardians of the Galaxy absolutely is that, because those movies take place in space and not on Earth. Although the Guardians of the Galaxy obviously do come to Earth in the most recent two Avengers movies, Infinity War and Endgame. Yeah, I love the original Guardians of the Galaxy movie. I think it's just the perfect group of misfit, weird, but lovable characters. I think they nailed that theme out of the park, or knocked that theme out of the park in this film. I think the casting was phenomenal. Chris Pratt as Star-Lord is one of my favorite Marvel characters. So I love this movie. It's not my favorite Guardians of the Galaxy movie. I'll touch on which one is a bit later, but I love this movie in the amazing tier for me. How about for you, Mike?
Well. I could go on and on and on about all three Guardian of the Galaxy's films. Are there three or four?
Three.
Three, about all three of them. The thing, too, I remember when this came out, this was the one that Steven Spielberg of the superhero films says that he was most impressed with, and that he had seen something new in superhero movies from the film without necessarily cynicism or fear of being dark when needed, And I think Guardians of the Galaxy, it's fun. The tone is fun. They're magical, but they're also, all three of them actually follow some pretty dark themes. The exploration of the relationship with the Star-Lord's mother in the first one, the relationship with his dad in the second one, and the relationship and the backstory of Rocket in the third. Love all of these movies. Guardians of the Galaxy 1. And this is starting the most audiences off with superheroes they didn't even know, and yet they embraced them and
Yeah.
love them. Masterpiece.
All right. Looks like we're putting Guardians 1 in Masterpiece. Love this movie. All right. Next up we have here Doctor Strange. I love this movie. I think it's a perfect introduction to this character. I think the visual effects, once again, are fantastic. Everything looks great. The relationships between the Sorcerer Supreme and Doctor Strange and Mordo and Wong are all really fun. And seeing them change as time goes on, especially the relationship between Doctor Strange and Wong, is really fascinating. I I really like this movie. I love the use of magic, and once again, without Guardians 1, this movie probably wouldn't exist. There were some wacky scenes. Um, yeah, I think the final fight, some people have said it's underwhelming. I actually think it's a really smart thing to do, and it was a really, yeah, smart way to use Doctor Strange's powers. You know, I thoroughly enjoy this movie, and it was one of my favorite Marvel movies for a while. It's gone a little bit down just because I like other movies more, not because I like this one less, if that makes any sense. So for me, this gets an amazing tier. Yeah, this gets amazing.
Yeah, I'm right there with you, Kim. I would go amazing tier as well. I think this movie, you talked about it being a great introduction to Doctor Strange. I think it's a great kind of introduction to the multiverse, which is not really touched on until the multiverse, saga, which we're in right now. But I feel like you get a little bit of an introduction to it in this movie, so
Yeah.
I appreciate that about the original Doctor Strange film. The only thing that's holding me back from Masterpiece is that I think the sequel is better. I think the sequel is actually one of my all-time favorite
Same.
superhero movies. So I'm gonna leave it out of Masterpiece tier because I think the sequel is better, and I also think Doctor Strange is more likable in the sequel than in this one. I feel like you see him grow as a character in the sequel, and I think he's more of kind of a selfish, less likable character in this film, and I do like people that I can get behind, and it's easier for me to get behind him in the sequel, Multiverse of Madness, than in the original Doctor Strange movie. And I feel like the difference, I feel like Tony Stark and Doctor Strange both struggle with being selfish people, but Tony Stark has these hilarious lines that he'll say that'll make forget or be able to forgive some of his selfish qualities, which I wasn't able to do as much in the original Doctor Strange movie, and that's why I love the growth that I see his character make in the sequel. So I wouldn't quite go Masterpiece tier because I think the sequel is better, and I think Doctor Strange is more likable as a character in the sequel. But I think this is an extremely well done Marvel movie. I really like it. I would go amazing tier as well. How about for you, Mike?
I agree about my love of Multiverse of Madness, somehow coloring how maybe I look at the first Doctor Strange, because like both of you have said, the Multiverse of Madness is one of my favorite MCU films. It's powerful on so many levels. But like Thor, the Dark World was overshadowed maybe by the glow of the original Thor. It could be that the original Doctor Strange is overshadowed by the glow of Multiverse of Madness, but I'm gonna have it fall. It would fall for me in between all right and amazing category. And I really think it's one I again that I think I might need to revisit Doctor Strange a little bit to meet it on its own terms.
All right. So yeah, I think we can put Doctor Strange into amazing tier. Next up, I'm gonna go quick on this one because I want to go in depth on Guardians 3. But Guardians 2 is not, in my opinion, as good as Guardians 1. I think it's just as funny. I just think the story isn't as interesting. I don't love Ego as a villain. I don't love the relationship between Ego and Peter. It's just that part of the story kind of. I'm not a huge fan of that. The characters are once again great though. I love the dynamic between all the Guardians in the opening scene where we just see them working as a team while Mr. Blue Sky is playing and Baby Groot is running amok. I think that's just a great introduction scene to a movie. I think Kurt Russell, I mean, I'm not a huge fan of his character, but he's doing his best, and I can respect that. I mean, yeah, for me, this will. I could put in. I'll put it in all right tier just because I love 1 and 3 so much more. So yeah, for me, Guardians 2 gets all right tier.
So I'm gonna give a hot take on this one. I feel like I kind of tend to do that when it comes to some of these Marvel movies, and I feel like Mike, you do the same thing. I actually love this movie. This is actually, if I had to pick a favorite Guardians of the Galaxy movie, this would actually be it, because I was actually really into the story between Peter Quill and his father, and I really grew to hate Peter Quill's father, Ego, played by the great Kurt Russell in this movie. I enjoy what they do with the Nebula Gamora relationship in this movie. I feel like that continues to get explored in a really big way. This is just an epic space movie to me. So I actually love this movie. If I had to pick a favorite Guardians of the Galaxy film, this would be it. So I'm gonna actually go masterpiece tier. How about for you, Mike?
Well, as film critic Owen Gleiberman said in Variety magazine, an extravagant and witty follow-up, maybe with the same friendly, virtuosic dazzle. And I loved the storyline between Peter Quill and his father to add some dramatic tension to things. I hold all three Guardian films very high, and this one as well for me does fall into the masterpiece category.
All right. Does the amazing tier work, or would you guys? Are you guys
For
really
sure. Yeah, yeah.
okay?
Yeah, I think that would balance out our opinions well, for sure.
All right. Now we have Spider-Man: Homecoming. I like this movie. I think it's a super charming Spider-Man movie. I think it might be the second. I'm my big debate here is deciding if Far From Home or Homecoming is better. I think this just slightly has the edge over Far From Home. Yeah, I'll go with this over Far From Home, but I like the dynamic between Tony and Spider-Man. I think the big twist that the Vulture is Liz's dad is a stunning twist. It was a real shock when I saw that for the first time for sure. Um, but yeah, I enjoy this movie every time I watch it. I rewatch it a lot. I think Tom Holland's a great Peter Parker. I think Tony Stark, once again, is fantastic here. This gets amazing tier for me. Will, what are your thoughts on Homecoming?
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I'm in the amazing tier as well, and I feel like I feel like it's kind of unfair because, like, for a movie like Black Widow, like, there's no Black Widow sequel, so I'm able to look at it on its own and say, "Oh, I love Black Widow,
Yeah,
masterpiece tier." But like the issue is that, like, for movies like the Tom Holland Spider-Man trilogy, like I have like I love all three films, but I have a favorite. So like take I have a favorite, and I'll reveal what my favorite is when we get to that movie. So I feel like it's tough when we're talking about, like, like Marvel movies that are part of a franchise, like the three Tom Holland Spider-Man movies, because there might be, one that I put in the masterpiece tier because that's my favorite, but then two others that I also love, but I just put in the amazing tier because I don't love it as much as the other one. Like, I think Spider-Man Homecoming is a film that, if there weren't Far From Home or No Way Home, I could look at, like I did with Black Widow, and say, oh, no sequels to this? Love Spider-Man Homecoming. Masterpiece tier. So I feel like it could get kind of, complicated and unfair when there are, movies that belong to a franchise, but still I stand on my opinion. I have there is a favorite for me in the Tom Holland Spider-Man trilogy of films, which is my favorite Spider-Man movie, one of my favorite superhero movies of all time. I think people probably have a pretty good idea of what that is, but I'll touch on it more when we get there. So, not quite masterpiece for me because there's another film in the Tom Holland Spider-Man trilogy that makes that tier, but I love Spider-Man Homecoming. Great follow-up to Peter Parker's introduction in Captain America Civil War. I think Robert Downey Jr. is a scene stealer in this movie. Excellent Spider-Man film. Everything I asked for out of a Spider-Man movie. Think this is an excellent film. So amazing tier for me. How about for you, Mike?
Yeah, this one comes in at the amazing tier for me as well. I think there are some parts that me as a viewer, I'd already gone through the origin story of Spider-Man in other series before. So by the time I get here, it's revisiting some territory that I'm familiar with. Anytime, though, you have Tony Stark and Tom Holland's Peter Parker uh, on the screen together, I'm always loving it. I'm always on board. The movie's super fun, very engaging. There was one scene with Michael Keaton and in a car with the Tom Holland that's very slow but very
Yeah.
creepy, and I always remember one. I'm a big Michael Keaton fan, so yeah, this is just great classic Marvel movie and the amazing category.
All right. Next, we have here Thor Ragnarok, which is my favorite Thor movie. I think this is really when the character changes and becomes a lot better. Once again, without Guardians, this wouldn't exist. And without Taika Waititi, this wouldn't exist. Also, quickly, I wanted to hear, did you guys see Next Goal Wins, the new Taika film?
We didn't know.
Do you plan on watching it eventually?
I absolutely plan on watching it. I just mentioned to Will this morning that I have to see that film.
Okay. Yeah,
How do you rate it?
I haven't seen it.
Okay.
I, th- I mean, if you guys like it, I'll watch it. I mean, it wasn't
I know
any.
it didn't get great reviews.
Yeah, that was. I didn't really want to spend money on a movie that isn't gonna be worth my time. Although that's kind of hypocritical because I've done that way too many times. But anyway, Thor Ragnarok I think is a really fun movie. I think Kate Blanchett as Hela is a perfect villain. Tom Hiddleston continues to just be outstanding as Loki. And then once we get to the Loki show, I'm just gonna go all out. He is so good at playing Loki. Perfect casting. Chris Helmsworth is hilarious, and I guess Marvel didn't know that until making this movie. Um, yeah, no Jane, and I feel like there's a lot less drag because of it. I think the Doctor Strange cameo, which I wouldn't even call it cameo. Cameo is like a 1 minute thing. He played a pretty decent sized character in this one. I thought he was fantastic. Super funny scene. So yeah, for me, this will. Yeah, this gets masterpiece tier. Yeah, for me. Will, what are your thoughts on Thor Ragnarok?
Yeah, masterpiece tier for me too. I would I obviously love the original Thor, so I had no problem with with them making Thor a darker character, and I actually missed that element in Thor: Love and Thunder because I didn't feel they did nearly as good a job as they did in Thor Ragnarok. And I really have a thing about I am not going to be into characters acting funny and comedic in life threatening situations unless it's done really really well. And in Thor Ragnarok, it is done exceptionally well. So for that reason, absolutely a masterpiece tier for me. How about for you, Mike?
Love this movie. Love everything about it. I love the tone. I love the reinvention of giving the Thor character, more to do with Chris Helmsworth, more room to roam. It's adventurous. It's creative. It's fun. It kind of breaks some new ground for me in some ways of what the MCU is doing under Taika Waititi's direction. almost as good in some ways as the original.
I knew
I'm
this was
putting
gonna
it
happen.
into masterpiece category.
Ridiculous.
No, I think it's a masterpiece, Kim. If you think it's ridiculous that I think it's a
No,
masterpiece, you
that's.
might want to rethink your assessment.
I said it was a masterpiece as well. I'm just
Oh,
still
you're
stunned
agreeing
about
with me.
Thor.
Thank
Yeah.
you. Oh, you
Okay.
agree with me about Thor. Great.
All right. Quickly before we move on to Captain Marvel, have you watched the Deadpool movies yet?
I haven't.
Okay, because I'd like to hear your opinion on that because the character of Deadpool, I don't want to really give any spoilers away, so I'm not going to go too deep into it. But during, I guess, intense situations and fight scenes, he makes a lot of jokes. So when you do watch those movies, I'm excited to see what your take on Deadpool cracking jokes in intense situations will be. But yeah, I'm surprised the Deadpool movies aren't on here because technically those are MCU movies now.
They are, yeah. I mean, especially with
Or
Deadpool
yeah,
3 coming out under the MCU banner later this year.
I cannot wait for this movie.
That's awesome.
The trailer's probably gonna drop soon.
Probably, yeah, probably that would make sense.
Yeah, so yeah, I'm so excited for that. Anyway, moving on here to Captain Marvel. I'm gonna make this one quick because we've talked about it quite a few times on the podcast. Not a huge fan of this one. I don't think Brie Larson would have been my casting choice for this role. Um, she's good in other movies. I don't know. Maybe it's just me. I don't know. I don't love her as Captain Marvel. The fight scenes are cool. Her powers are really cool. It's an entertaining watch. Samuel L. Jackson is pretty funny in this one. Like I said when I talked about Avengers, the first Avengers movie, the character of Nick Fury gets better as time goes on. I think he's pretty funny in this one. Yeah, so for me, this gets average tier. Well, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, so like I really mean I really mean what I'm about to say. I hate having to say negative things about superhero movies or about Marvel movies with females in the lead because I love when Marvel does it every time. I think it's disgusting that there was not a Marvel movie with a female in the lead until 2019, 11 years into the MCU's existed. So I love that I loved Black Widow, so much, because that has a female in the lead. So I'm glad that that's able to show that I am able to love female-led superhero movies. And like, I think you've told me, Cam, about like some people review bombing some of these like female-led superhero films just because there's a female in the lead, and that just disgusts me. And I want to make it
Totally.
very clear that the reason I am giving this film a negative review has nothing to do with it having a female in the
Yeah, same
lead.
here.
Absolutely nothing. So I want to make that very clear. I'm glad that this movie got made because I think it was due time for a female-led superhero Marvel movie. So I'm glad that the film got made. I just wasn't that into the story. This is man, I think this might be down and not great for me. How about for
Oh,
you,
wow.
Mike?
Yeah, this one traffic's definitely in the not great category for me. I just was never into the storyline. I found it a little muddled and confusing. I think Brie Larson is a powerhouse, obviously Academy Award-winning actress, but the character doesn't seem really well drawn in this movie. This overall storyline and arc, I just wasn't super into. So I think it was well-intentioned, but misses its mark. Not great.
All right. I'll put this at not great tier. I can do that too. That works for me. All right. So now we have Spider-Man: Far From Home, which is my second favorite Spider-Man movie. I think it's a pretty good movie. It's a really, you know what? Now that I'm thinking about it, I don't know. It's my least favorite. I keep going back and forth between this and Homecoming, as I said when we discussed Homecoming. But no, this is my least favorite. It's not a bad movie. It's a fun summer blockbuster, cool fight scenes, pretty funny. Not a favorite of mine, but I don't mind it. I'd probably put it in all right tier.
Yeah, so I really like this film, just like with Homecoming, it's not going to get masterpiece tier because the one that's getting masterpiece tier from the Tom Holland Spider-Man trilogy of films is going to be one that we're going to talk about later with the initials NWH. That is my tier. That is my tease, which any true Marvel fan will know what those initials stand for. But I'm not putting it in masterpiece tier because the next movie of the Tom Holland trilogy is my favorite of those three films. But I thought this Tom Holland Spider-Man movie carried over all the momentum from Spider-Man Homecoming, had the same elements that made Homecoming great. I feel like it was a great first Marvel movie post Endgame. I feel like it really handled the loss of Tony Stark well. I feel like his image is really shadowing over this film in a big way, even though he's not in it. So I think this is an excellent Spider-Man movie. This is in the amazing tier for me. How about for you, Mike?
I think this one falls into the all right category for me.
Wow.
I don't know if I thought Spider-Man went through enough of like an emotional journey, maybe somewhat in this movie, and I didn't see enough. I wanted more grieving from my Spider-Man based off the loss of Tony Stark and his mentor. And when I just didn't feel like that was present enough in the journey throughout the film. That has a lot of elements that it does well, but it wasn't one that resonated with me over a long period of time. I'm putting it in average.
All right. Um, we can balance that out with all right. All right, next here. This is a show that I have always loved since watching it. I mean, this is such a good show, WandaVision. I mean, each episode, especially when watching it for the first time, has you guessing, and rewatching it, it's still like, I can't believe this exists, you know? It's so unique. I mean, especially watching it for the first time, we had no clue what was going on at all. And I'm telling you, when I watched the first episode, it didn't explain how Vision was alive. It didn't. Why was it in black and white? Why were they in a sitcom? It was just, what is even going on? As the mystery unravels, it gets more interesting, and theories. And watching those theories that people were making, it was so fun. The whole journey of this show was so fun to be a part of. And week by week, I just loved watching the show, and it's one of my favorite uh, TV show week by week watching experiences. Oh my goodness, it was fantastic. And sure, the final episode could have been better. I feel like there were some things, particularly with Quicksilver, that could have been handled differently. But aside from that, I loved this show. I thought Agatha was a fantastic villain, and I can't wait for her show to come out. And a lot of people seem to be hating on it, and I don't know why, because I love this show and everyone else liked this show. So why are you all excited for the new Agatha show that they changed the name again? So I don't know the name. Yeah, but I loved WandaVision. So yeah, this gets masterpiece tier.
Yeah, I love this show too. I watched it twice. My first experience was not nearly as good as my second experience because there were the confusing elements to it. Now, what's brilliant about the show is that I feel like they make it confusing in a way where it's like a mystery or a puzzle that you're trying to solve. So I feel like they do the confusing parts really well, and make you want to go and make you want to go along for the ride and solve the mystery and put the puzzle pieces together. The first time that I watched this show was right after watching all of the Infinity Saga, so it threw me off because it was just so different from
Yeah.
what all the Marvel movies I had watched in the Infinity Saga were like. So it was just really hard to adjust to it for me the first time that I watched it. It totally threw me off. I recognized its brilliance, but it just threw me off because it was so different than anything I had seen in the MCU before. But oh boy, Cam, Mike, when I sat down with you, Mike, and with my mom, because the reason me and Mike watched it for the second time was to show my mom the show because we thought she might enjoy it. And oh boy, when I watched the show for the second time, and I was able to watch it from a standpoint of actually understanding what was going on, and I was more used to, what the Marvel shows were like, as compared to the Marvel movies. When I watched WandaVision for the second time, I loved it, and I just said, this show's so great. It's brilliant. It's well written. I think some of the best acting in the MCU. Paul Bettany and Elizabeth Olsen, exceptional. So yeah, just a brilliant show. Love it. Masterpiece here. How about for you, Mike?
I believe, I believe you could make a point that WandaVision is the highest point the MCU has reached, and level of its creativity. It reinvented what you thought was possible
Yeah,
within the MCU. Um, it breaks the fourth wall. It's not just an homage to other eras of television filmmaking, but uses them in such a knowing, layered, psychological way. What they've done with the Wanda character, unreal.
yeah,
Elizabeth Olsen's acting is on another level in this
agreed.
series. And it's so difficult what she has to do episode for episode because she has to shift and adjust to the temperament and the acting of those eras. I was blown away, just blown away by this series. It was something I never saw coming. And just like you all, I was just like almost dumbfounded in the beginning, but so intrigued and blown away artistically. Masterpiece all over the place.
All right. So now we have 10 minutes left, and here's where the big twist comes in. Do we just speed through? I think we speed through each of these projects as fast as we can. Does that work for you, or do we continue going on and spend more time on this? What are you guys thinking?
I'm fine with whatever works best for you, Kim.
I'm
Uh,
fine with rapid fire.
yeah, we'll go rapid fire here because that actually works out because we've talked about a lot of the things here before. Um, so yeah, Loki seasons 1 and 2, fantastic, great characters. The whole idea behind it is really fascinating. It's probably the most well shot Marvel product ever that I've seen, which is something that I don't think people bring up enough. Tom Hiddleston, oh my goodness, he is such a good actor. He's so good at Loki. I am so happy he got this role. Super creative, love it. Will, what are your thoughts on Loki? Oh, masterpiece tier for me.
Yeah, so season one of Loki, I wasn't super into because I found it confusing in a way that was annoying, unlike with WandaVision, where it was like this mystery and this really cool puzzle piece to solve. And I was just more willing to go along for the ride, even though it was confusing. But with Loki, I remember you, Cam, you predicted that you thought season two would be more understandable because we knew more of what the multiverse was like now, and that was certainly my experience. I particularly enjoyed episodes 3, 5, and 6 in season two. So I'm gonna go with the all right tier because I didn't have a great experience with it in season one, but I really enjoyed season two. So for that, it gets bumped up to the all right tier for me. How about for you, Mike?
I'll go all right here.
Alright, that works for me. Okay, so now we have What If, which I think not a lot of people talk about because I think it's a fantastic show. Animation is really cool. Some of the fight scenes are fantastic. The ideas here are awesome, and I can't wait to see where this show goes in the future because I still have not watched season 2, which I will watch after I finish Echo. But yeah, season 1 of What If I thought was amazing. Mill, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think, what I love about What If is that there are certain characters like Iron Man and Captain America who are now gone, and we get to, you know, have them come back in certain episodes of this show. So this show has a real nostalgic feel to it that I love, a chance to reconnect with characters that may not be here anymore, and even though it's different versions of them and different realities, there's a real warm nostalgic feeling that I get when I get to see characters like Steve Rogers and Tony Stark again. So I think the show is very well done, amazing tier for me as well.
No vote. I've only seen 2 episodes of first season.
Okay. Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, really cool fight scenes, cool characters, funny movie. Simu Liu needs to be in more movies immediately. He was great in Barbie, he was great in this. Come on, let's put him in some more movies. The Mandarin, the real Mandarin in this was fascinating. The Ten Rings, really cool, and the post-credit scenes were fantastic. This gets an amazing tier for me. Will, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm right there with you, Cam. Great step in the diversity direction for the MCU. Having films with more diverse characters. I thought it was, really well done. I feel like there were some, fresh, original aspects to it that we hadn't seen in the MCU before. Really enjoyed Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. Amazing tier for me as well, Mike.
Amazing tier for me as well. Fun, adventurous. Yeah, breaking some barriers of being for diversity pieces. So can't wait to see another one in that series.
Eternals went in not knowing who the heck the Eternals were, came out having a better understanding of the Eternals. So, yeah, I guess that counts for something. It wasn't my favorite MCU movie by any means. Some cool fight scenes, cinematography was nice. That's average for me.
I'm going to go amazing tier. This is another hot take for me. My expectations obviously weren't high going into the show with the reviews, but I walked out of it, feeling like, I got some, freshness, some newness, some things I hadn't seen in the MCU before. I thought they did a nice job introducing the new characters. So I enjoyed the Eternals. I'll go amazing tier. How about for you, Mike?
I've been on the record before saying this might be the most unappreciated of all the Marvel films. I thought it was visionary, Academy Award winning director at the helm. I put this one into the masterpiece category. I know I'm an outlier with that opinion.
Alright, so now we have Hawkeye. I think this is a perfectly fun show. Some cool dynamic between Kate Bishop and Clint Barton. So yeah, this gets all right tier for me. Kingpin's cool in this too. Yeah. Well, what are your thoughts on Hawkeye?
Yeah, at one point I called this my favorite MCU show. I think I'm gonna, hold off on that now, just to give WandaVision the respect that it deserves because it's so brilliant. But yeah, no, I loved Hawkeye. Amazing tier for me. How about for you, Mike?
Yeah, it's amazing just under masterpiece because it does everything and it does it well. I was so into it. It's a fun, joyous ride. It somehow is able to blend in a lot of different storylines and make it work. I love Florence Pugh in this. It's borderline masterpiece, but I'm comfortable with amazing.
Yep, agreed there. So now we have Spider-Man No Way Home. I think this is a fantastic movie, a great way to not overdo cameos and make them actual characters. Tobey and Andrew coming back was fantastic, especially in the theater. Funny movie. Doctor Strange is great. The best theater experience I've ever had. This gets masterpiece.
Yeah, masterpiece for me too. This is not only my favorite movie of the Tom Holland Spider-Man trilogy. This is not only my favorite Spider-Man movie. This is one of my favorite superhero movies of all time. It's literally everything I could ask for out of a superhero movie. Masterpiece. How about for you, Mike?
Stunningly, stunningly good. We could have an entire episode where I could unpack what's going on with this. So blown away by this film. Masterpiece plus.
Alright. So now I think it's time to just say what tier this goes in. So Moon Knight for me gets all right tier. Interesting story.
I'll go average.
Oh wait, sorry, I didn't mean to put it in. Mike.
I'll probably go average, almost all right.
All right, I'm fine
The
with
idea behind
average.
it was great, but
There's some
execution,
episodes that
yeah.
flopped. Multiverse of Madness. I wish we had more time to talk about this, but we did do like an entire video about this movie. But I love this movie, masterpiece. So creative, love Sam Raimi.
Masterpiece.
Masterpiece. Everything I said about WandaVision applies to this.
Miss Marvel could have been so much more. I love the first episode so much. Kamala Khan is such a cool character. Iman Vellani is a great actress. Sorry, I'm spending too much time. This gets all right tier. Could have been more.
I'll say either average or not great.
Not great.
All right, we can throw it in
I
average.
didn't even finish watching it.
Oh wow. Thor: Love and Thunder could have been so much more average tier.
I'll say all right.
I'll say all right. It could have been great. It was Ragnarok done all over again and not as good.
I am Groot. I don't care about this show. Horrible.
I'll say average.
What is that?
I am Groot.
I haven't watched it.
Okay. Alright, so She-Hulk horrible, we all agree on that, I think.
Horrible. Yes.
One
Horrible.
of the
Werewolf,
worst pieces of television of all time.
Werewolf by
That
Night,
may be the worst show that I've ever seen. Yeah.
Werewolf by Night, masterpiece, great cinematography, everything like that, I mean, it was awesome.
I'll say amazing.
I'll say amazing.
Alright, we can do that. Amazing. Black Panther Wakanda Forever, masterpiece, better than the original, I think. Sure, he's great.
Yeah, I think I'll go masterpiece too because I put the.
Looks like they got kicked out of the meeting. I don't know why Zoom does this, but on their behalf, I will do this. And if they have any notes for me, I will share them on the next episode of the podcast or on a community post. So for me, this gets masterpiece too, and I think they were leaning in that direction as well. Guardians Holiday Special, I think they'll agree with me on this one too. Fun, alright movie. I think they'll also agree with me on this one when I say Quantumania is not a great movie. Some really wonky things going on there. The visual effects were great, but the story was lacking. And, oh, Mike is calling. Mike, hello, I am finishing the episode. You were on the mic right now. Alright. Will is coming over to talk right now, and Mike is on the phone. So yeah, I put Wakanda Forever in masterpiece tier. I think you guys would be fine with that. And I put the holiday special into alright tier.
Holiday special to me? Which one holiday special? Without Guardians?
Yes, the Guardians holiday special.
Oh, that's a higher tier for me.
Okay. Is Will there?
Yeah, I am here. I would say the amazing tier. I'd say it fulfills its purpose.
Alright, we'll throw that into amazing tier. And then Quantumania I put in not great. I think you guys will agree with me there. You guys might even go lower than that.
I could say horrible, but I'm gonna say not great because I do enjoy Kang and Bill and Bill Murray. And Mike, go ahead and say horrible. Horrible. Put away.
Alright, yeah, that's a not great tier. We'll put that there. And then we have Guardians 3. I think this is the best Guardians of the Galaxy movie. I think all the characters are great. Best song choice. Just such a dramatic movie. Loved it. Masterpiece tier.
I'll say amazing tier. Guardians 2 is my favorite of the Guardians of the Galaxy films, but I thought this one was a Marvel film where you say that every single movie, like for once, you could say that every single movie in a Marvel franchise was great. Quite the accomplishment, James Gunn. I'm so impressed. Amazing tier for me. If you're in the Guardians of the Galaxy universe, you're in masterpiece range. Masterpiece.
Alright, we'll throw that in the masterpiece tier. And, yes, this is the last one on the list that I've actually watched. Or all of. I am in the process of watching Echo. So for me, Secret Invasion was kind of a letdown. Started strong, finished horribly, I thought. So for me, this was at average. But now thinking about it, I'm going to put this in not great tier. Could have been a lot better. The finale could have been a lot better. Samuel L. Jackson's performance is great. The fight scenes are really cool. Love the new TVMA vibe they're going for. But it's just better in Echo, you know. So yeah, for me, this goes into not great tier.
Yeah, for Secret Invasion, I think this is tough for me because I loved it at one point, but I can't deny when a show doesn't nail the landing, and the show certainly didn't. So I loved it at one point, but because it didn't nail the landing, I'm gonna go all right. But at one point, I thought it was one of the best MCU shows ever. So sad that it didn't nail the landing, but I'll go all right here. I agree with Will. We were riding high on this at one time. We thought it was so well written and it had a lot of depth. What I think they did was race to the ending. I think they raced to the ending. If they had had more episodes, I think it could have been elite.
Alright, yeah. I think, where does this go? Average tier, or?
I think all right.
Alright, yeah. Okay, so I haven't seen the Marvels, and I don't think, Mike, you've seen it either. So, Will, I think you're gonna have to take over for this one.
I hate to say it, Cam, I love what they were trying to do. Horrible. This was one of the worst Marvel movies I've ever seen. I thought it was laughably bad. I thought they had Nick Fury. Like what I loved about Secret Invasion is that it had Nick Fury as a in a darker show and as a darker character. And the Marvels had Nick Fury as the more comedic light Nick Fury, which is not where I think the character works best. This was actually one of the worst Marvel movies I've ever seen. This is horrible for me.
Yeah,
no vote on my end, but I have no interest.
Yeah. I just because of my commitment to the MCU, I have to watch this, and I'll probably be able to watch it in a week or two because it's currently for rent right now, and we'll go to Disney Plus soon. So yeah, I'll watch it eventually. Actually, it might be on Disney Plus now. I'll have to double check that. So maybe I'll watch it tonight if it is. But yeah, I don't think I'll enjoy that. Echo, I am 2 episodes in out of 5, and the first 2 episodes I've watched are fantastic. The first one especially I thought was fantastic. I mean, that fight scene, whew, and Daredevil just shows up. Oh my goodness, that caught me off guard. That was fantastic. Love Fisk. Can't wait to see how he contributes to the show as it goes on. Yeah, huge fan of Echo so far, and I can't wait to do a full review on it once I finish the show on an episode of the podcast. You guys both finished it, so yeah, what are your thoughts on Echo?
Yeah, so I thought Echo was really well done. You know, what was interesting for me is that like there were points throughout the show where I was sitting there and I was like, why am I not enjoying it more? What's going on? But then I think Mike hit the nail on the head when he told me that I thought I was probably going to get more Daredevil and Wilson Fisk than I did. So Mike, I think you hit the nail on the head when you said that. I thought the show was very well done. I just feel lied to in terms of the Daredevil and Wilson Fisk promotion for the show. I don't believe I got them as much as I thought I would. So I'm disappointed in Marvel from a promotional standpoint. It impacted my enjoyment, but I'll still go amazing tier. How about for you, Mike?
Yeah, this one's falling into masterful category. I thought Echo was phenomenally well done. And in terms of going into the indigenous community and the origin story, Hollywood, the relationship between Echo and the Maya character and Wilson Fisk, exceptional. Don't want to give too much away, Cam, because you haven't seen it. But for me, it's masterful.
Yeah, I can see that. I'm definitely going to have to finish the show at some point. I mean, that just has to happen. But yeah, so do we feel fine with putting this in amazing tier?
Yeah, sounds great to me.
That sounds good.
Alright, so yeah, we have finished our Marvel tier list. I'll just read it off here real quick. In the Masterpiece tier, we have Avengers Endgame, Avengers Infinity War, Black Panther, Black Widow, Captain America Winter Soldier, Iron Man 1, Guardians of the Galaxy, Thor Ragnarok, WandaVision, Spider-Man No Way Home, Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, Black Panther Wakanda Forever, and Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3.
And Thor, the original in the series.
Based off of what we both said, it ended up in the amazing category. So, in the amazing category, we have Captain America Civil War, Thor, Avengers, the first Avengers movie, Doctor Strange, Guardians 2, Spider-Man Homecoming, What If, Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, Eternals, Hawkeye, Werewolf by Night, Guardians Holiday Special, and Echo. In the alright tier, we have Avengers Age of Ultron, The Incredible Hulk, Iron Man 2, Iron Man 3, Spider-Man Far From Home, Loki, Thor Ragnarok, Thor Love and Thunder, and Secret Invasion. In the average tier, we have Captain America the First Avenger, Thor the Dark World, The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, Moon Knight, Miss Marvel, and then in the not great tier, we have Ant-Man, Captain Marvel, I Am Groot, and Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania. In the horrible tier, this is a bad tier. All these movies are terrible. Except we have Ant-Man and the Wasp, She-Hulk, and the Marvels. I didn't hate Ant-Man and the Wasp that much, but I know you guys despise that movie. So yeah, that is our Marvel tier list. Thank you guys for joining me. Mike, can't wait to see you on future episodes. We'll be back next week. So yeah, this concludes our New Year's extravaganza.
Fantastic. Thanks for having me. Really appreciate the time together with you guys.
Oh yeah, no problem. It was a pleasure. But yeah, this was fantastic. Had so much fun doing this. Cannot wait for next year's New Year's special. And you know what? We'll try to sprinkle in some more big special series like we did here, because this was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed this. Yeah, once again, thank you guys for joining me. And yeah, thank you guys for watching this episode of the Everything Podcast. Yeah, that does it for this episode of the Everything Podcast. Thank you guys for joining me. Yeah, so much fun doing these episodes, and yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. And yeah, that does it. See ya.